So now the next speaker will be Beatrice Fontana from Hoffmann Fontana Architects here from Zurich. Beatrice is an architect with more than 20 years of experience and who just recently also expanded in the field of curating. But today she's going to talk about architecture and society and will elaborate a little bit on a project called FOGO. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's funny enough also in Zurich's western part has a part which is refugee housing, and yeah.
Thank you for inviting, thank you for having me here, and you can stay, please stay. I will tell you a bit of a different story. That is the story of, I think, a very courageous project that, thanks to HZ, Asylorganisation Zürich, we had the possibility to make here in Zurich. And we are still talking about housing for refugees, and we are still talking about this kind of housing, modular housing and container. We were asked at the beginning to move one temporary housing project that was located in Leutschenbach. It was located there because it was one of these reserved land that the city has. The time was expired, the project had to be moved, and so there was a long research for a new placement, a new place to host this settlement. What a city and commonality usually do, and we have seen also with Bau and Situs, is there's always a problem in finding the right location, because, as we said, the policy of not in my backyard is still quite felt. So what commonality usually do, they take some piece of land that they have outside of the city or not direct in contact with very structural and the existing other civil structure, and they tend to isolate this piece of architecture. In this case, it happened something very different. It happened, that was the original Siedlung, and you see, it was a very interesting project. But what was completely missing was the possibility of integration. The people, yes, was living there. There was nothing around, and the existing housing were really separated from the Siedlung through this very big road that makes almost impossible the form of communication between the two sides. So it was a very specific and local and very identifiable reality that anyway remained in itself, because that was the land that was available at that time. When we had the possibility to use another piece of land that on the other side was quite central and in a very quickly developing area of the city, we thought that that was a great possibility to start thinking a bit, to start dreaming of different possibility of make architecture. Because what we thought is that to offer integration to the city doesn't mean necessarily and only mostly to offer a house, to offer a job, to offer education. But most of the time is to offer people a community, a sense of community, and to offer people a city. The right to the city is a right that, it was written about it in the 60s already. We were already talking about the right to the city as one of the fundamental rights of the people. But we haven't done so many steps forward, nor for regular inhabitants of the city that sees their public places deprived of the public contents, and even worse, for the people coming from other land. And immigration is not anymore a problem that we can put aside and try to solve aside as one of not the big problem. It will become a bigger problem. If we can call it a problem, I do not see it as a problem, but it will become bigger and the issue will become bigger. So we need to develop a new way to think about settling migrant and asylum seeker in a city in a different way. Establishing, as I said, a set of communicating rules that are different and that are more complex and include several layers of intercommunication among people. That's what we try to do here. We had the luck to have this big piece of land from the city of Zürich in Altstetten. It's also temporary, it's also a reserve of the city, so we will have this piece of land for 15 years, hopefully longer, because usually this license got always a bit longer. And we, thanks to the Haut-Set that was able to involve several partners in the project, including Einfach Wohnen, including the UVO, and including also local initiatives that we're going to develop, we really established a sort of participative process of developing this project. We had a huge amount of workshop with all the subjects involved, and we tried to establish architecturally what was meant as a double level of communication between the central core of the new Siedlung. Sorry, doesn't come the word in English, and the city itself. And this double level of communication had to go through a form of natural integration. Now, you see here a small scheme. I will not go through all the scheme because the time is very narrow, 15 minutes, unfortunately not so much to discuss about this process. That was actually the most interesting part of the project, I have to admit, this exchange with all these different actors. But what happened is that the Leutschenbach group of habitation for asylum seekers became the core of our new project. It was located at the center of this new area. What we thought to kind of establish a relationship with the neighborhood was to design the so-called Mantelnutzung, as had been declared. So an additional use of the area. And we designed another temporary Siedlung which hosts a lot of different activities. We host students, we host artists, we host small enterprises that are starting, we host gastronomy, social gastronomy, and a lot of people that are somehow trying to involve themselves in generating a new kind of city life and promoting this communication among different actors of what is the city life. We did, and in a way that's also why I started thinking about the curatorial issues, we curated, in a way, the uses of the spaces that we have there. And we try to build narrative of the spaces and of the uses that would have been done of these spaces, because we think, and we thought strongly, that just with the intercommunication and with the interlacing of these uses, we can generate community. Because community is not generated by defining group of category of people, but community is generated when the need of these people interlace, in a way, in common area. So that was the research that we did. It was like generating a Babel. That's why I put this image. That was the plan. I don't know, I have to stand 1 second. What we did was to put really in the center the houses for asylum seeker, and to build around these additional uses. They were also neat because here there is the art Brücke that is very loud, so you cannot put any people living here. You have to protect the people living there from the noises. So there was also the reason why. At the beginning they had thought to design a wall there, a 9 meter high wall, but I mean, we thought that wasn't really the good solution to promote integration in a way. What we realized in the process is that also integration with different people, difficult. It has quite a difficult going if it has to happen in closed space. We are talking of people from different country, different religion, different politics, belief, different habits. Their private sphere, their intimate sphere is very important, as is important for everybody. So we thought that the best way to try to promote contacts among these people, these different kind of people, was to protect their private sphere, but on the other hand, offering them common places and open spaces to meet in very different conditions. So we put a lot of effort in organizing the outer space. And we generated very different kind of outer space, not only in the plan, as you see it here in the plan, but in the building itself. I don't know who of us has seen the building already that stays there. It is full of recesses, terraces, or stairs where people can meet in very, very different conditions, in very different groups, smaller or bigger, and with very different interests. And we gave also a big importance to the design of, let's see if I have a picture. No, I don't have a picture of the playground. We designed a playground downstairs, down there, you can see it. We had a laboratory with the Zeta Deka, with Hikununk, that is a lab of the Zeta Deka, and we let the kids, also the kids that are going to live there, design their own playground. And we integrated the playground with the houses. That means if you want to go, if you're going to walk on the slide, you have to climb the house's stair. So you have to kind of invade the private sphere. And that has promoted also a very interested exchange among the kids that lives there and among the kids that goes there actually to play. So we try to take, in this experiment, a lot of small attention to this detail. And we are now expecting to see how that works. What was important for us was also the sustainability, of course, and the architectural aspect, because we thought it is important that such temporary space are also pleasant. We developed the color concept and the material concept, and we had all built in wood container that are also all recyclable and all very sustainable in terms of construction, and they can all be utilized more times. But it was important for us to give a specific architectural quality to the full project. And I invite you in the next day, possibly in a sunny day, to go there and to take a look. And then please let me know, write me an email and let me know what do you think about it. That was also a very important qualities for us, because we wanted to oppose the stereotype image of refugees building or a container building as a very, very pragmatical and a very, very strict construction to something that gave other possibility to the spatial composition that remains anyway of big importance for us. I have to say the project was nominated from the Canton Zürich for the Architecture Prize, and that made us very proud. We haven't won a prize. I think time are not yet there for such a project to win an architectural prize. But I think it was nice to be there, because it is time that a new way of thinking architecture makes space in the traditional way of conceiving the city. It is time also for us architects to acknowledge that we need to assume a different role. We have been in the last 20 years, last 25 years, and I don't want to go back to the neoliberalism attitude to life, but yes, I have to go back to that, because architect personality has been conceived and has been structured, as for the rest of society, with a certain specific attention to the cult of the personality and to the cult of the identity of the architecture. But architecture is not just what we build. Architecture is what's among what we build, mostly. It's the space that is between the building. And our role as architect has to change, because we have to make ourselves able to activate those spaces and to generate community through the activation of those spaces. And yes, I don't want to bother you more, so I think, was I in the 15 minutes? It was difficult to be so short, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Beatrice, to show us this amazing project. Again, the question to the audience, if there's someone who would like to pose a question right now directly to Beatrice around the FOGO project. Otherwise, we would take it up again at the very end in our common discussion. Pascal?
Erst einmal, es ist ein unglaublich tolles Projekt und uns freut es extrem, dass ihr das geschafft habt, diese stigmatisierende Architektur aufzubrechen und einen coolen Ort zu schaffen. Und das hat eigentlich an dem urbanen Ort wie Zürich ist das möglich, und ihr habt das bewiesen, und das sind genau diese Leuchtturmprojekte, die die Schweiz oder auch weiter über die Schweiz unbedingt benötigt werden, um genau das anzutreiben, und ich finde es total toll. Und wir haben so, also Beim Basislager haben wir schon gekämpft, weil nur schon die Farben vom Leutschenbach, warum die Farben so sind. Du kannst dir nicht vorstellen, was das für Diskussionen sind. Bei der Farbgebung vom Bundesasylzentrum haben sie uns gesagt, versucht es doch mit einem freundlichen Grau. Und ich habe dann gesagt, ja, wir haben ja nebenan schon ein Jugendgefängnis von der ZHWK. Und dann haben wir gesagt, ja, nein, so vielleicht nicht. Nein, ich finde es extrem stark und ich finde es unglaublich toll, dass ihr das wirklich mit den bestehenden Content in den Kontext gebracht habt, wo die Leute hingehen und irgendwie finde ich, das ist cool, was ist das, ich möchte dahin und das ist ja unser Ansporn auf Gemeindeebene irgendwo im Zürcher Oberland und dann solche Referenzen zu bringen, das ist unglaublich wichtig.
Ich danke dir, das ist für uns auch genauso, es fühlt sich genauso. Ich muss auch sagen, wir müssen uns bedanken, weil wir hatten sehr, sehr mutig, also I was talking in English, sorry, but our client, our partners were sehr, sehr courageous and they have decided to take really a step. We were lucky to be able to work with such a team and that allow us such freedom because we got in contact with this reality. We knew how it was. Already to deal with the previous project, with the color of the previous project, with the structure of the apartment of the previous project, was already kind of difficult. So I understand perfectly and I hope really that was kind of a step further that will allow it will work so that we will be able all together to try to structure a new way to deal with this way of building. I hope that set a kind of a milestone for everybody.
I wanted to ask, how did you run into a project like this?
Oh, that is a nice question. Actually, it was the project that ran to us because we were often for the city of Zürich as architect, and when AOZ had to move the container, we were just suggested, because at the beginning it was, as I said, just the moving of this container to another place. Then the project became bigger, but it was really... I was researching in that field already since a while. It was my specific interest, so I kind of had particular attention to such team. But yeah, that was more or less how it went.
Hi, I would like to ask you what kind of tools and activities you did for the participation of the people, like the participatory process that you mentioned. Like, what kind of tools and activities did you develop with them?
Mostly were workshops. We had very many workshops with all the people, and very different actors were invited. That were not just us and the client. It was all the people that were involved. A lot of importance, for example, in this workshop about the social gastronomy people that have occupied part of the ground floor, because they have an innovative concept of society of bringing gastronomy as a subject for integration. But also we invited cultural representative of the city. We invited very, very many different people, and of all of them we collected the idea. So it was really an exchange through workshop. There was no other specific means. It was just talking for hours and exchanging idea for hours. Yeah.
Okay, maybe one last question, but then we move maybe possible other questions to the common discussion at the end.
I was really enjoying to visit it on the open house Zurich this year, and really it's worth it to go there. It's kind of a playful architecture. You go this labyrinth, staircases up and down, really nice quality. The question is, there are also some buildings, not only these containers, but the wooden ones, right? Is it all the same thing, or
It is part of the same intervention, but that is a different architectural office that works on that, and also with a different client, because the building belongs to the Einfachwohnen and the UVO. Of course, the process was common, but the two parts have been developed separately in terms of project. We met and we discussed, but let's say they are two different projects, but they belong to the same area, and the idea of connecting the student housing with other uses of the space, including exactly the asylum seekers and the student, was an idea that was there from the beginning. The nice thing that we could achieve is that part of the apartment for the student of the UVO are now going to asylum seekers that are actually studying. So they can, the uses in the student house is also mixed. And that is also, I think, a very nice result.
How does it work?
So far good. So far good. We always have good feedback. But I think it will take a while to see how that works. I mean, the uses of the open area is not yet so common in Zürich for, I don't know, for climate or cultural reason. But you know, last time there was, here in the city in transition, there was the city chef of the architecture in Copenhagen, and she said that they worked on community by increasing the open social area in Copenhagen. So I think we can make it also here in Zurich. It's a bit warmer.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Beatrice.
Thank you, everybody.